Hi, I'm David Dobson. Welcome to Conversation with Dr. David Dobson. Today, my guest is Bernie Maroney. Bernie is an entrepreneur and educator. He received a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from University of Oklahoma and an MBA from Simon Fraser University. He's also a certified scuba instructor and has a deep interest in ocean conservation. Today, we will delve a little bit into Bernie's interest in scuba diving. It's a great pleasure to have you with me, Bernie.
Thank you very much, David. It's good to see you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So to start off, Bernie, can you tell us a little bit about scuba diving?
Sure. As you probably know, the word scuba actually is an acronym that stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And of course, it was designed, primarily actually originally for Navy divers and whatnot, but it has then helped in understanding more about the ocean and marine life as well. It's a very popular sport. The recreational divers, a number in the millions. There are, hundreds of thousands that get certified, every year in a normal year, hopefully recovering post-pandemic. And it's you can find it in many places around the world, including here in the very cold waters of Vancouver.
Thank you for this. I want to ask you a next question because you have so much interest in scuba diving. So how did you develop your interest in scuba diving?
That is actually a story that I tell in classes because I give a presentation about it actually. I'm a man of a certain age, you could say, to say it politely. And when I suddenly realized somebody said something about me middle-aged, and it dawned on me that if I'm middle-aged, then I'm going to set some records in terms of longevity. So I'm far over that, but I didn't want to feel as if I was over the hill. And I realized there were many things that I'd not yet experienced, we put together a bucket list of things. And I thought that one of the first things that I should do is start to overcome some of the things that I was afraid of when I was younger. And I had a rather traumatic experience occur to me when I was a young boy in grade school in learning how to swim. And so I'm not a great swimmer on the surface.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I had a bit of a fear of drowning. And so I'm fine in boats. I don't have a phobia per se, but I wanted to become better at that so that I could overcome that particular fear. And I thought, what better way to learn to swim than to actually be underwater and learn to be able to stay underwater. And so that's actually something I utilize now when I'm teaching people how to scuba dive. Is many of them are afraid of drowning and afraid of being underwater. And so we kind of work their way through it with the equipment to see how, so they understand how it works and learn to trust it.
That's pretty good story to
overcome. I liked it so much actually that I went further advanced, and within 2 years of first learning how to scuba dive, I was an instructor.
So where do you practice scuba diving?
I learned to dive here in Vancouver. So I did my open water training. The first certification, and it doesn't matter which agency you go to, they're all very similar and they follow similar paths of growth as a diver. My particular certification agency is PADI, the most common one. And I did my open water certification, which is the first certification here in Vancouver. And it was very, very cold. The water was 3 degrees Celsius.
What? Wow, that's really cold.
It was really cold.
Even with the suit, you can feel it, eh?
It is. It's very, and the first thing you feel is like your face hits that cold and everything, and all you can think of is, I'm going to freeze to death. Forget about drowning. And so I did that here. And then I went on within a couple of months and did my advanced open water training, which allows you to go down to 30 meters of depth and provides you with a great many other different experiences. So you experience deep diving and navigation, and I did night diving and wreck diving and things like that. But they're just initial, kind of experiences. Then you do the next step. I did about 6 months later is rescue training. And so that's purposely so that you learn how all kinds of different rescue procedures and different ways to pull people out of the water and be able to give CPR while you're afloat, which is interesting. And it actually I had to put that to use twice in my career.
Really? Okay.
Then and that was all of that was done here in Vancouver, and the
Okay.
warmest water that I experienced anywhere would have been that summer in July, and it was 12 degrees Celsius, which is
Wow.
not very warm when your body normal temperature, of course, is 37. So
Right.
I went overseas
Yeah, okay.
and on a trip to go to Malaysia and then Australia. And while I was in Malaysia, I went to a place on the island of Borneo that's part of Malaysia called Kota Kinabalu.
Okay.
And there's a famous mountain nearby that people climb, and I did that as well.
Oh, nice.
So I went out there, and they just gave me a 3mm wetsuit, and it's called a shorty because it only had like short arms and short legs, and
Okay.
I was convinced I was just gonna freeze because I was used to.
Yeah, big suit.
And then got in the water, and it was
Right.
27 or 28 degrees, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. I don't have to worry about freezing while I'm diving. What is this?
Yeah.
What witchery is this? So it was a great experience, and that was actually my very first dive was when I saw my first turtle. And I
Okay.
mean, I took off after that thing like most new divers do, just to be
Yeah.
able to take some
Yeah.
pictures of it and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that affirmed me for warm water diving, and so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ended up all my later training, my dive
Yeah.
master training, which
Yeah.
is a 4-week long, very intensive
Yeah.
program where you're essentially
Yeah.
working 12 hours a day, and then my instructor training, and then my advanced instructor training,
Right.
and specialty training.
Yeah.
All of that was done overseas in
Yeah.
Southeast Asia.
Nice.
So I've most of my diving experience now has been Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
That's very nice. Very nice. Are there health benefits to taking scuba diving as a recreational sport?
There really are, actually. There's and it goes beyond just carrying the equipment. It's a tremendous, actually, full body workout.
Okay.
As you go in. I mean,
Yeah.
and of course, even just the breathing and helps you then your cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
It's really great cardio. It's good strength as well, and especially in your legs and in your glutes.
Mhm.
And it helps you also develop stamina better than anything, especially if you're out somewhere where you're doing, say, 3 or 4 or sometimes even 5 dives in a day at a particular location, which would generally be a tropical location.
Right.
You develop fantastic stamina.
Yeah.
And it helps you. I mean, everybody I know that when they go
Yeah.
diving, they sleep fantastic that night.
And what about, like, you become more aware of your surrounding and concentration, things like that?
Yeah, you do. Because you have to maintain. It's much like yoga, where you in meditation, because you concentrate on your breathing.
Yeah.
And you're very aware of everything around you, because of course you don't want to be bumping into sea life or coral or something. You don't want to be bumping into other divers. And so you're very aware of all your surroundings. But then that allows you, that really opens your eyes and allows you to see, like, what is going on in the world, and the effect of how we live above the surface is greatly affecting in a negative way the life under the surface. And the oceans are the bedrock of all life. Absolutely. Right, water is the source of all life, and so that's where we get our water from. And when we see what we're doing, to the oceans, it's unbelievable. It's really disappointing. So that changes your entire perspective about how you want to live above land and what you want to do in order to try and preserve the oceans.
Yeah. So my next question is, we know that climate change is making the ocean water warmer and causing sea levels to rise. So how does this affect the scuba diving world?
Well, in terms of the industry, of course, the industry, as you would expect, wants to be able to take care of its own environment, beyond just self-preservation of the industry. They, of course, recognize the effect that has on the world. And there are a number of, tens of thousands of dive shops that focus on that teach people. That's one of the key things that when we teach people to scuba dive is this is what the underwater world is like, and this is what humans are doing to it. And so, like, let's do everything we can. And this is why instructors are when we go underwater, we almost always have like a net thing attached to our BCDs. And so if we see garbage and everything, we'll start to collect it. And even during courses, like during the shallower dives, and we're teaching courses, the students see that, and so then they start to gather garbage as well. Nice. And I had mentioned before, there's we were on a dive off the east coast of Borneo, but it was Indonesian, the southern part of Borneo, off East Kalimantan province. off of an island called Maratua.
Okay.
And we were down, the dive was about 33, 35 meters below the surface. And it was a very, very sunny day. So, you know, you don't see much light down at that point, but you still can't tell if the sun is shining. And as we were coming up, we could see this big cloud, and we thought that maybe the skies had darkened, but it wasn't. It was a cloud of floating debris underwater between 20 and 25 meters. And it was debris that was slowly sinking. It takes years sometimes for things to sink. And we started just grabbing it. It was all kinds of plastic garbage. And I grabbed this. As you see this, you can tell, for instance, when the waters are getting warmer, because coral starts to die off. And as it dies off, it loses its color. It's called bleaching, coral bleaching. And the worst bleaching I've ever seen, where there are two places. One of them, of course, is the Great Barrier Reef off Australia. And then the other is our reefs that are around the Gili Islands in Indonesia, which is just off the northwest coast of Lombok, the northeast coast of Bali. And you can just see, you know, this magnificent coral that, of course, is alive, but it's also a food source for many of the marine animals, and it's also shelter for many marine animals. And it just starts to get white from the outside in. And it dies off and then just breaks off. And you can regrow coral. So there are a lot of efforts now by dive shops where they have built artificial reefs in order to try and restore and regenerate new coral. And there are a lot of efforts to do that. But you know, you can't do that as fast as the reefs are dying off due to the warm water. So and the warm water is, of course, because of the amount of carbon generation that we have and the carbon emissions that we have on the surface. Increases the water temperature.
I have a final question for you. What advice would you give to people who are looking to take up scuba diving?
There are a number of great dive schools here in Vancouver if they want to learn how to dive here while they're here. If they're not particularly interested in cold water, and so, well, you know, and I can understand that. There are options for them, of course, to learn to dive overseas or wherever they're going on holiday, except that then they end up spending, you know, a few days, you know, taking classes and doing exercises in pools when they're on holiday. And so I always recommend people, you can do the classroom work part of it online through the website or through any one of the local dive shops even. And do the what do we call the confined water exercises, which is pools, or overseas they use shallow water. And do that before you go. And then you can actually transfer your training to a dive shop at your destination. And then you go, all you have to do is the open water dive, the actual ocean dives out there, which is only 4 dives. And so it's an afternoon and then the next morning. So that way you really are only spending, you know, maybe 8 hours or so in total of your vacation time, you know, getting certified. Right? So it's much, I would say, you know, start here, do what you can in cold weather, like the freezing weather we're about to get. Do the indoor stuff, and then wait until you're someplace warm to do the outdoor. That's what I always recommend to people.
Thank you for your time, Bernie. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, David. See you later.
Bye.